Hello and welcome back to All Things Money. I'm your host, David Blain. During this segment, we're going to talk about a couple of topics. Number one, we're going to continue with this topic of education. We started several weeks ago talking about how college education, the costs have just been spiraling out of control. I went to an event last week here in Craven County, sponsored by the Craven County Community Foundation. It was great to see a local community college like we have here doing wonderful things, getting college education. Now, it is a community college, but getting education out to the people for a very reasonable cost, a very high-quality education, some excellent skills that enable people to either go on to a four-year university or go out into the workplace and get a job for a very reasonable cost. So there are some excellent schools out there. There are schools that are working hard to keep the cost down. There's foundations out there providing money to help this. But in general, the model of college is broken, which is to go to some college that charges $20,000 or $30,000 a year, including room and board, and to borrow the money. Of course, now essentially the sole provider of loans is the federal government. So to go borrow that money to get a degree in some marginally useful major, and to start off life in debt and things like that. We've been discussing about what is a smarter way to go to college. And this article that came out the other day talked about something that I experienced firsthand. For those of you that know me, know that I graduated from United States Military Academy at West Point in 1989. What many don't know is that before that I actually went to the University of Notre Dame in Notre Dame, Indiana. A very highly esteemed academic institution, and also very expensive at the time. I happened to be on a Army ROTC scholarship that I worked very hard for, and my parents were not wealthy, and so I saved up from newspaper routes and cutting grass and things like that for any spending money I wanted. Well, there were kids that went there that their parents just doled out the money, and they really didn't take advantage of the education. And so I know firsthand this study that talks about, it says that kids who pay all or part of their college costs are less likely to do things like binge drink. This came from the School of Family Life at Brigham Young, finds that kids whose parents are footing the entire college bill, including tuition, books, housing, recreation, were most likely to be partying and possibly floundering. And this is, we talked about last week or the week before, about how there's nothing wrong with working hard, working your way through school, and things like that. And these kids that get everything paid for have less of a sense of what they wanted to do in the future than those who are getting little or no help from mom and dad. When you're paying for it yourself, we talked about this for medical costs, education, things like that. When you're paying for it yourself, you usually do a little bit more research on what you're buying, a little bit more research on what you want to do. And so this is just another study that shows that these kids tend to be more focused than kids that are just given the money. Now, of course, some of the pitfalls of this are if it takes you, 12 years to work and go to school, people tend to drop out of school. So you got to be cautious about that you don't get sidetracked too much if that is your goal to graduate, that you don't get sidetracked too much into working. But anyway, it was another thing. We've got some serious problems about college here in America, and it just goes further to support my contention that as a parent, you don't want to sacrifice your own financial well-being for it. And if you're young, going to college, please don't get into a whole bunch of debt over your head. We see people that frankly will never recover from it. Okay. The next topic, I thought this was a fascinating topic. Many of you have heard the studies that it costs $250,000 to raise a kid from birth to age 18. Now that doesn't include college tuition, $250,000. For someone that has 5 children, my eyes perk up when I see things like this. That's a study that's been out there quite a long time. Well, imagine if you had 19 children $250,000 each. I mean, that's just a mind-bending amount. Well, for those of you that watch a lot of TV, maybe you're already familiar with this. I really was not. But there's a family out there called the Duggar family, or Duggar, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But they have a program on TLC. I'm not even sure what TLC is. It says it's a popular program, but it's something on cable that says about 19 kids and counting. And it's about this family that has 19 children and, you know, their daily lives. Well, I don't really pay attention to the TV show, but what I found fascinating was when I found out about this, learning about their finances. And this family, you know, how in the world do they pay for 19 kids? I mean, before they had the TV show, now they make $25,000 to $40,000 an episode now. But the point is, before they were popular and before they were on TV, they had, you know, a bunch of children. And how do they do it? You know, how do they manage not to be on welfare and living off the government? You know, they were able to manage quite well and live a debt-free lifestyle. So looking into this may provide some clues for people out there struggling with, you know, living with one child or two children or no children at all. It's just the principles, whether you have 19 kids, whether you're young, whether you're old, a lot of the principles are the same. And when we look at them, we see that they're applicable across all walks of life. We're coming up on our second break, so you'll have to come back and stay tuned, and we'll talk about how the Duggars support 19 kids and are living debt-free. So for All Things Money, I'm David Blain. We'll be right back.